My parents left me with just $50 while they spent a whole month in Europe like I didn't even exist. I was 17, broke, alone, and honestly, I thought my life was over. But what they didn't know was that I was quietly building something behind the scenes, something that would completely flip the power between us. 10 years later, they showed up at my door, desperate, asking me for help like nothing ever happened. So tell me, after everything they did to me, would you forgive them or make them regret it? My name is Emily, and the day my parents left for Europe, they handed me $50 and said it should be enough for a month. I remember standing there in the driveway, watching their car disappear, trying to process what just happened. No food in the fridge, no support, nothing. At first, I thought maybe it was a joke or some kind of test. But when I called them later that night, they didn't pick up. Instead, I saw their photos online, smiling in Paris, posting fancy dinners, like I didn't even exist. That's when it hit me. I wasn't forgotten. I was left behind on purpose. And in that moment, something inside me changed. The first week, I tried to stretch that $50 like it was everything I had, because it was. I skipped meals, told myself I wasn't hungry, just to make it last a little longer. Some nights, it was just tap water and whatever crumbs I could find in the kitchen. I remember standing in a grocery store once, holding a sandwich in my hand, checking my balance over and over, before quietly putting it back like I didn't deserve it. School didn't stop either. I'd sit in class, pretending everything was normal, while my stomach literally hurt from not eating. And the worst part wasn't even the hunger. It was watching my parents post videos every single day, laughing, traveling, enjoying life. While I was figuring out how to survive alone at 17, that's when I realized no one was coming to help me. If I wanted to get through this, I had to do it myself. That night, I stopped waiting. I opened my laptop, not because I had a plan, but because I had no other choice. I started searching anything. How to make money online. How to survive with no support. Most of it looked fake, scams, things that felt impossible. But then I found something small, simple, something no one was really talking about. It didn't promise fast money, it didn't look exciting, but it looked real. So I tried it. At first, nothing worked. Hours turned into days, days into weeks, and I was still making almost nothing. But I didn't stop, because every time I thought about quitting, I remembered them laughing in Europe like I didn't matter. And that feeling, that anger, became my fuel. Slowly, things started changing. $1, then $5, then $10. It wasn't much. But for the first time, I wasn't surviving anymore. I was building something. At first, it didn't look like much. A few dollars here, a small win there. Nothing that would impress anyone. But to me, it was everything. Because for the first time, I wasn't just surviving. I was moving forward. I started learning faster, making fewer mistakes, understanding what actually worked and what didn't. I cut out distractions, stayed up late, woke up early, and slowly, those small numbers started adding up. $10 turned into $50. 50 turned into 100. And one day, I checked my account and just stared at the screen. It was more money than I had ever seen on my own. That's when something clicked. This wasn't just a way to survive anymore. This was my way out. And from that moment on, I stopped thinking like someone who was struggling and started thinking like someone who was building a future. Months passed and everything started to change, but not overnight. There were still days I wanted to quit, days where nothing worked. But I kept going because I had already come too far to go back. I stopped thinking about quick money and started focusing on building something real. I learned new skills, improved what I was doing, and slowly, the results followed. One day, I made my first $1,000. I didn't celebrate. I just sat there, staring at the screen, remembering the nights I couldn't even afford food. That was the moment I knew I was never going back to that life again. From there, everything accelerated. More clients, bigger opportunities, more income. And for the first time, I had control over my own life. I moved out, got my own place, built a life that didn't depend on anyone else. And the crazy part? The same people who left me behind had no idea who I was becoming. It had been almost 10 years. I had built my life, my business, my independence. And honestly, I stopped thinking about them until one evening. I heard a knock on my door. Not a text, not a call. An actual knock. When I opened it, I froze. It was them. Older, tired, nothing like the people I remembered from those pictures in Europe. For a second, no one said anything. Then my mom finally spoke. Her voice softer than I had ever heard before. "Emily, we need to talk." I just stood there, staring at them. 1,000 memories hitting me at once. The hunger, the nights alone, the silence. And then my dad said something I never expected. "We're not doing okay." That's when I realized. They weren't here to reconnect. They were here because they needed something. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. I didn't invite them in. For a moment, we just stood there, strangers pretending to be family. My mom tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. We didn't know where else to go. I looked at her, calm, almost numb. "You didn't know where else to go?" My dad cleared his throat, avoiding eye contact. "We lost everything, the house, the savings, it's all gone." I didn't react. Not because I didn't care, but because I had already imagined this moment 1,000 times. My mom stepped closer, her voice shaking now. "We just need a little help, just until we get back on our feet." That word, help, it hit different, coming from the same people who left me with $50. I let the silence sit there for a second. Then I asked one question. "Do you even remember what you left me with?" They looked at each other, confused, uncomfortable. No answer. Of course they didn't. That's when I realized. They weren't here because they felt sorry. They were here because they thought I owed them something. And that's when I made my decision. I looked at them, really looked at them. Not as my parents, but as the people who left me behind when I needed them the most. For a second, I thought about everything. The nights I went hungry, the silence, the feeling of being completely alone. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out some cash. I held it in my hand, looked at it, then slowly handed it to them. "Here." They looked confused, almost relieved. "How much is this?" I met their eyes and said quietly, $50. The same amount they left me with. Their faces changed instantly. No words, just silence. And for the first time, they understood. I stepped back, opened my door, and said one last thing. "I survived without you. You'll figure it out too." Then I closed the door. Not out of anger, but because some doors are meant to stay closed. So tell me, if you were in my place, would you have done the same thing or given them a second chance? Face Without Mouth Fire. Please subscribe